Hello, everyone, and welcome to the New Frontier next episode. My name is Jo Lambergiva. This is Max Sinclair, and today I get the honors of introducing our guest. He, of course, doesn't need any introduction. Like if you are in the Amazon or e-commerce environment, you absolutely know him, but I'll still do the proper spiel. So. Our guest today is Farrar, who is a visionary entrepreneur. He has been in the e-commerce space for ages. He has consulted and worked with companies from Fortune 500, such as Coca-Cola, Mercedes-Benz, Microsoft, all of the big dogs. And he is currently running one of my favorite podcasts, which is Lunch with Norm. And also he's the co-host of the Marketing Misfits and has the most fabulous beard in the entire industry. So without further ado, Norm Farrar.
Hey, Norm.
Hey, Norm.
Hey, how are you?
Very good. How are you doing?
Good, good. I was just checking for small children in my beard.
Finally.
You've got like a model of yourself basically behind you, Norm, with the gnome.
I had somebody send that to me, and that is actually you can buy it on Amazon, and that is Norm the gnome.
Wow.
Oh,
so yeah, perfect.
That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Norm, so this is obviously, New Frontier podcast is all about AI and e-commerce. And I am quite keen to dive in straight into the topic, which is, you've had Lunch with Norm for so long. You've interviewed so many people specifically around the topic of AI. And I guess my first question is, how do you see AI reshaping the Amazon space and then more the broader e-commerce space?
Well, I think the more and more people that get into AI and start using tools, proper tools and different tools and stay on top of it, you're going to see that the competition is going to be tougher. If you're not doing it, you're going to lose out. And this could be anything from how to rewrite your inserts or your titles. Most people talk about, the titles and the copy, but they don't talk about other things, Max, the images, the proper way of laying out the images, your A+ pages, what to put into the back end, the translations of everything, like especially for anybody that's doing any type of video, being able to put out the video or blogs in multiple languages. Now you can easily translate these blog articles or videos, or you could take the blogs. I was just looking at a new app the other day that takes blogs and rewrites it into video, but changes the blog article so it reads more like a script, and then vice versa. So you've got a script that's fine for YouTube, but it changes it for blog articles for your website. So it's good. It could be anything, including all of your social media and any type of ads. So we're already seeing that with ads, getting AI to give you better CTRs, or just your conversion rates. It's going to be amazing what's happening, and it's happening right now. I mean, and the scary part about this is just the start.
No, absolutely. It's very exciting, to be fair.
Yeah.
And you've obviously interviewed, I think you have like a weekly AI podcast on Wednesdays, right? And you interview all the top people in the industry. Yeah. So what are some of the most interesting kind of and practical tools and kind of tips that you've had from your guests that you think people could be implementing in their business?
Well, I gotta give a shout out to what's it called, Leap Skill, and it's Saj Abadas. I hope I pronounced his name right. I keep pronouncing it wrong, but every week he comes out with new anything that's new with either ChatGPT or any updates or any apps, and it's like $20 a month. I've subscribed there. I don't get it for free. I subscribe, and every weekend I just catch up on whatever I'm doing. He's got playbooks. The other one that I'm looking at, I'm a branding guy from way back, but what Mark DeGrasse is doing with his what's it called, AI Brand Academy. And you could simply build a business that way. The other thing, whenever I'm in the middle of a new project right now, and Kevin King and I are building up this new company, and so I've seen this. You've probably seen this on the show, but a buddy of mine started this thing called Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat. But he came up a genius idea, and this is Start, Scale, Exit, Repeat, and it's got all the custom GPTs on how to go and write a business plan. A lot of people don't know how to. They go to Live Plan and they try to figure it out on their own. They show some samples. This one tells you, like you hit the one, it'll tell you your values and mission statements, for instance. But it builds the architecture, the foundation for you to grow a really great business. And he's doing that for all three of those modules. And at the end of it, you're going to have a really comprehensive business plan. So I see that really helping out a lot of people so many people are they oh, I'm using ChatGPT, oh, I'm using Claude, but it's like Excel. A lot of people say they're using Excel, but they only use 1%, and that's how to put the numbers in the cell and how to get the formula. And even if it's a formula, it's either the average or the sum. You got to dig into it, and that's what I really like doing, is exploring and digging deeper and getting more out of it. And by the way, another one that is very underrated, I would check out Phrase, FRASE.io. That's another big one for me.
Nice. And what does Phrase do?
Phrase is like your best friend when it comes to copy. It'll go out there, Answer the Public. So if you go to Answer the Public, it creates this kind of mind map based on a keyword. Well, what Phrase does is it goes and it takes that keyword, it finds the best articles, the number one rated article. It then does the mind map, just like Answer the Public, but with all the number one rated articles. Then you can summarize it, or you can go out there and, you can summarize it and just give it to your writer. You can put that summary into ChatGPT with the information that it tells you exactly what you need to do to beat that article on, in Google. And it'll tell you if you have enough internal links, if you have enough optimization. It's incredible. So you could take an article that you've written, put it in there, and it might be 50. And by the time you optimize it, it's 99. It's really great.
That's FRAZE.ai.
No. FRASE.com .io. It's a bunch of MIT guys, and it is so underrated.
Very, very. Oh, here we go. Just found it. Thank you. I will definitely take a look at that. And I just want to, before Joe jumps in with the next question, I know, I just wanted to say, on your friend Colin, you introduced me to him, which I'm very grateful for. And I just we had a really good chat, and I just want to kind of +1 what he's doing on the GPTs and his kind of framework for, his like, as he calls it, the 4 sticky note business plan that he's kind of put together, like a really simple way of just framing all the kind of cutting all the bullshit, sorry for the language, out of this stuff, and what's the story behind the business, who are the people, what are the systems, like, just think, taking it down to the basics. And he's a guy who's, he's been there and done it a few times, so definitely worth checking out as well.
Yeah.
I haven't read it yet. I really want to. This is now on my reading list.
Oh, it is it's a great book. The way that he's broken it down. What he does is he just breaks it down, whether you're at the beginning of your entrepreneurial journey or you're advanced. I would highly recommend it. Friend or not, I would highly recommend it.
Awesome. And Norm, I was lucky enough, I think it was a couple of years ago, I had the honor to listen to one of your presentations that you gave on the $1 Billion Seller Summit. and that was all about packaging. And I found it really fascinating, all the different angles you provided and all the value. And so I'm actually interested to hear, have you had any thoughts about I guess like how sellers and e-commerce sellers can use AI to improve their packaging based off all of the sort of techniques you were talking about, which were more classical, I guess, packaging strategies?
Sure. Well, even the one, so I was trying to talk to people about not so much packaging, but thinking outside of the box. And one of them was a Puma shoe that was covered in QR codes. And you could just scan your shoe and it would come up with daily different facts or daily things, daily workouts that you could do with this shoe. And I thought that was incredible because you would never think that. And now it was gimmicky. I haven't seen anything since that, but it could be just like when you want to right now, if you upload the restrictions from Amazon or compliance, you could put that into ChatGPT, and anytime you do anything, you could just plug in whether you're compliant or not, and it will give you an answer. Same thing. You could take the information even from that presentation, but you could take information about the basics. What are the 4 things you have to look at when you're doing packaging, or if you want to simplify your packaging. But even bigger, the thing that a lot of Amazon sellers are doing is they're putting way too much. And that's why I tried to show in that presentation that if you wanted to put way too much information, that's fine. But when you're doing your primary logo, now this might not be overly kosher, but if you wanted to develop a better image and draw people's attention, take away like airbrush, get that out of there, remove the crap, and just put make sure your logo is big, make sure that the legal things, compliance, like the net weight. If I'm doing soap, what's the net weight, the size, the brand and the scent. That's all you need. I don't need to know that you climbed Mount, Everest to 29,000 feet, and you went into a mine and you dug out this Himalaya salt. Some people put way too much information, and they take away from their packaging. So I would do that. And then when they receive it, I've never received a complaint that it had, a bit more information on it, even if you've done it wrong. So you've done it wrong. Just go in and get it changed. Go to a graphic artist, or Max, can your app do that?
We don't do packaging. We've just launched A+ content, which I'm very excited about. But no, packaging is still TBD. But you can actually there's a lot of free stuff on GitHub, and I would always recommend people who are interested in AI to go look at GitHub, because GitHub is kind of the open source community where if you are developing stuff in a academic situation, you need to publish it open source. And there's a bunch of other reasons people do open source, Meta do open source as well. But primarily, there's lots of kind of interesting academic projects where people just publish stuff. And the one, as you were talking, that came to mind on this was the QR codes. So you can kind of get a QR code, generate a QR code in the style of art, and if you're doing your packaging, you could kind of put that in a beautiful way that matches your product somehow, and then scan it and get additional information. So that's what my mind was going. I don't know.
Let me just jump on that, because I recently also read again one of the GitHub Hub published things, which I thought it was awesome, and still not sort of platform available, but it's about it's completely separate to packaging, but it's something cool, and I think it's very relevant. It's a AI tool which you can basically try on the same model. You can try different clothes and how that sits on the model. And I think sort of this AI driven online changing room will definitely become kind of a more prevalent thing. And when you actually see the prototypes, it looks seamless. It looks like the model has been shot with this piece of clothing rather than it being AI generated. So that's definitely a really good recommendation, Max.
Yeah, one of the other things looking at packaging right now. Like 10 years ago, you wouldn't say this, but nowadays, uh, people have to look at different channels, and one of the channels would be retail. So instead of doing your packaging more for online community, I would definitely take a look at retail and make sure that you understand retail packaging, and even talk to your packaging or your manufacturer about it, and get them. You could do two, one for online and one for retail. But why not just do it for retail? There might be some reasons. You might have, you know, oh, it might be some sort of hanging device that might take up some extra room, might cause you some issues with shipping. But for the most part, I would just try to make everything one, and keep in mind, retail. Retail is where it's at. Now, believe it or not, like a lot of people think, retail is dead. It's not dead. It just smells a little funny. But get into it. That's where you make a lot of you sell volume rather than onesies and twosies.
Yeah. So we've kind of discussed some insights you've shared from your show about Colin GPT's phrase.ai.io and GitHub. But so it's quite a nice kind of, let's say, level 2 discussion on getting beneath the surface of how people can explore AI in their businesses. But obviously Amazon is also kind of abroad all of these transformations as well. So Norm, how are you seeing Amazon itself using AI in its various different aspects? And I'll leave that as an open question, and I'm sure we can dig into lots of different avenues there.
Well, just looking from e-com tent images, if you're not checking out your images, if you don't go and see exactly what is shown, like you can use, oh gosh, I forget the name of it, but you could pretty much just type in image readers now, and you could just have it take a look to make sure that whatever is on your image is actually being picked up by AI. And then if it doesn't, then
Recognight is the name, is on AWS.
There's a bunch of them out there.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so as long as you understand, and the other thing is, it might pick up keywords that you didn't know were on there, and then you could start driving or adding more keywords. So that's definitely something. Like I said before, even with Amazon, translations. I'm not sure if they're going to come out with that, but it's easy enough to slot that in. And then, of course, titles and how you're using titles, split testing, and how you're it has it now, but I think they're going to have a much more efficient model of doing that. Copy, your back end, more efficient. So many people, when they're putting in their search terms, they're not doing it properly. And that changes too. Like from 2013 to where we're at now, that's changed. Also, the flat files, like being able to run the flat files properly without making it a complete nightmare. I think Vanessa Hung did a really nice video back about 6 months ago about the AI, using AI with the flat files. So there's a lot of different things that are coming out. For me, I think it's driving traffic. So you've got all these sources out there, and PPC is so bloody expensive. And if you have the ability to go out and still take advantage of the referral program, and you can go out there and drive external traffic over to your site, and it's less expensive, then why not do it? That's the thing. Even the other thing that I'm looking at is taking, and I don't know where this, I guess compliance wise, you'd probably have to talk to the influencer. But let's say that you're using a site like Billo, or if you've got Rebate, or there's a bunch, Join Brands. If you use one of their network of influencers, or if you go out and find your own influencer, translate, go in. I guess you'd have to make sure that you have permission to do it, but go in and translate everything. And I think that's where you're going to see a lot of extra traffic. If you can come into the States and I'm selling a product and I can do it in Spanish, or if I can do it in Canada, French, or whatever other major language there is, or if you're in another country, Japan, Germany, you can now do that, and you can make sure that you're at least targeting like those communities. That's just another way of doing it.
I mean, this is really interesting because I think that, with the advent of AI avatars and essentially being able to just like put anyone's short snippet of video and then get them to actually speak in a local language is going to be super powerful, even in sort of, I guess, influencer industry, if I can call it this. I think that would amplify their reach. And I think it's really interesting what at the moment a lot of content creators are doing using AI in these ways. A total segue, but for example, I really love what Kevin King is doing right now with his newsletter, and he's making it into a podcast. And I think, this is just generally like how a lot of the different mediums that people are using for like amplifying their message are going to sort of start blurring. I guess like written content is going to become audio, video content is going to be amplified across many different languages seamlessly without translation. So I think this is definitely really, really interesting. Norm, I wanted to ask you, so one of the things that we've been talking a lot about with a lot of different, I guess, guests is around Rufus and sort of this completely new paradigm of how customers are searching on Amazon and sort of this more conversational way of finding products. Like, how do you think Rufus is here to stay? How do you think is going to reshape consumer behavior? And yeah, just generally, what are your thoughts on it?
Well, no matter what I say, who knows? At the end of the day, who really knows? It's so new, and it could go into any direction. All I would be doing is say, oh yeah, I think it's going to go here, but the chances of it going there, probably nil. But it is a good thought, seeing where it's going. Back when is it that it came out? But 2001 Space Oddity with Hal, being able to have a conversation with Hal, and just Hal always answering properly. I just like the idea of being able to get exactly what I want. And who knows, by the way, will there be a voice?
Yeah.
It might be a two-way conversation. Matter of fact, if I were to predict anything, that's what I would predict in the future. That it would be two-way.
This is so funny. I think the same. Like actually, tomorrow in Ritu Java's newsletter, I have an opinion piece specifically around that. Amazon Alexa is going to come back, and it's all going to be about voice. So it's so interesting that we have the same thought.
Yeah, that one I can pretty much. What's the old guy's way of saying it? Mark my words.
Well, on this, Norm, I'd love to ask you this question, because we often, and this is maybe I'll ask some AI, maybe Joe has another one, but people often compare AI now to like the birth of the internet. But obviously, a lot of the people making those comparisons weren't around for the birth of the internet. They didn't live through it. Certainly, I didn't. Right. So, in like from your perspective, having lived through that and now seeing this, is it the same? Is it a fair comparison to say like AI is like the internet, or is it different in some way?
No, it's way faster. So when I was very involved back in the day, when we had the 1200 baud, you put your rotator phone handle into the to the holder, and it would beep and do whatever it does for about a minute. Then we would be attached. We would go to BBS boards, so bulletin boards, And that was so cool. And then when you were able to see an image actually take 5 minutes to come across your screen, you'd be watching going, this is amazing. You know, it it progressively got better and got better, but at its own pace. And even nowadays, okay, it's speeding up, but not like AI. So if you take a look at where we were a year and a half ago, and even though it's been around for quite some time, okay, but the general population started using ChatGPT a year and a half ish ago. And all of a sudden, look where we're at. So I hear people talking about 5 and 10 years out, you know, these crazy predictions. It's next year or the year after that. This is going to roll out so fast, depending on government involvement, that we're not going to know what hit us. And so, is this bigger, better than the internet? This is much bigger.
Yeah, absolutely. By the way, Maxi, this was a great question to make me feel very old, because guess what? Like, I used to plug in a cable, scratch a card, listen to the and then wait for an image to
you're
load
like
for 5
2
minutes.
years older
So
than me,
very
Joe. I mean,
fast.
you're literally like 2 years old. I don't know, maybe they have the internet in Bulgaria quicker.
Don't talk about it
look,
on the show.
when I was a kid, we had to get up from the couch, turn the black and white TV. We had rotating phones, you know. Oh, and I was telling
I have a rotating phone too. Norm, let's move this conversation. Come on, you guys are not making it any better for me.
oh,
Anyway, talking about moving on, I am actually really keen to hear, because I follow also your newsletter, and in that newsletter you have some epic stories. And so unfortunately we won't be able to cover everything, but I want to talk about your journey to where you are now. Like, how did the journey begin? And yeah, tell us more.
I've always had the bug. So I'll try to make this as short as possible. But even in high school, my first corporation, my first limited corporation, was with 4 guys, and we got into the rock promotion business. Didn't go anywhere. But the one big one is we had Loverboy working for the weekend. We turned down the tour. We didn't like them. And so that could have been a really good one for us. But, you know, I worked my way through college, had a video production company, went into the military, just the reserves for 3 years. And then I worked for somebody for about 3 months. But ever since then, I've worked on my own. So and not always in a good way. There's been some failures along the way. I've gone bankrupt, you know, due to some unscrupulous business partners. But you know, it's just been a lot of e-commerce. Like back in 2000, back in 1995, we had an incubator, and we were coming up with some technology back then that was just incredible. And then I got into this other company called Creative Sparks, which is more, we would build SEO pages and then rent them out to companies when we got to page 1. And then we got into this is a family company. My brother, my father, and I started manufacturing and doing contract manufacturing in the States and over in Taiwan. I was in China 20 years ago doing like buying promotional products. 30 years ago, buying promotional products before anybody was over there. And then there's a bunch of in between. But then I went to ASM3 with a buddy of mine, Riz Lakhani, and we were like looking at it going, wow, this is going to take off. So we jumped in, and just very shortly after I went to, actually during that conference, I heard this doctor from Ireland saying that he just doesn't get it. Like, he was fine with Amazon, but he wasn't fine with everything else, which I was. And pretty much before I even sold a product, I just went to him and he said he wanted to beat the S&P. And I said, I can guarantee that, Now, I don't guarantee anything, but I knew I could guarantee a profitable product back then. And so I built it. He didn't even know what I was building. I just said, I'll find your product because I was into sourcing. I'll brand your product because that's what I do. And then we just built it out for him. It was kids' toys. And then we got into supplements. And then he exited, and that was it. I started my consulting business. My consulting business, like now there's like 3,000 consultants. When I was consulting, there was probably a handful. So that's how far back the business actually started. So 2013-ish. And then I got into, I just was in Nazareth. It was the first time I saw my my production or my fulfillment company. So I have a fulfillment company with Afalabi Orocon, and this is Wind Gap, Pennsylvania, and we just opened up. Kevin and I went over there and checked it out for the first time. So that's pretty cool. That's exciting. So that's about it. I'm probably leaving out a whole bunch, but yeah, in between there's a podcast that started. By the way, I should mention that the podcast started not like I am. You probably know this, Joe, but like I would get sick. Like the first time I got on stage, I was sick. I broke my tooth. I had literally an ulcer. Then when I went on stage, man, I don't even know how I got through it. But after that, some people like AMPM Podcast had me on as a weekly or a monthly update for Amazon for around 7 episodes. And I would get so nervous. And so when my kids said, "Hey, why don't you do a podcast?" It's like, no, I don't want to do that. And then we ended up doing a podcast. And now, 625 podcasts later, yeah, now I'm doing podcasts. So I still get nervous on stage, but if the things that go wrong during a live podcast, guest doesn't show up, mics turn off, something happens, I don't go into the fetal position anymore.
That's so funny. And
I mean, to be fair, like practice makes it perfect. I mean, when you invited me to your podcast, Norm, that was one of my first podcasts, and I was so nervous. Like I just had this kind of feeling like, oh my God, but then you made me feel so comfortable. And then after that, I think after your podcast, I felt like, okay, I might be able to do this. And there you go.
There we go.
So you, I don't know if I'm allowed to ask this, but it's fine to say no. But you mentioned off air you're kind of exploring a new business. Are you able to kind of discuss what this is, or is this a fulfillment one?
No, this is I can't explain exactly what it is, but I can tell you parts of it. So Kevin King and I, people have always said when he came onto our show that we banter back and forth quite a bit. It's a lot of fun. So we decided that we were going to start this new company working together because we got along so well, and that could be a bad thing too because we're very good friends. We don't want that to wreck the friendship. But one of the areas was, hey, let's just get on to a new podcast. So we started Marketing Misfits, and we've taken all these world-class marketers, and we tried to make it like My First Million, and I don't know if you know the Kelsey brothers, but just kind of bantering and then going and talking about the subject. But we might go down different rabbit holes, and it's just been a lot of fun. So we do that. We release that every Tuesday, but then we're coming up with a learning center, and I don't think there's a problem to announce it yet, but it's called Ascend, and this is where we're bringing experts from all sorts of business, from mindset to e-commerce to Amazon, and we're getting them to develop their own playlists, short, under 10 minutes, and they can have multiple playlists, but it's just where it's a place where people can come, they can get their information. It's vetted, we know that it's good information, and it's from top educators in the world. So we're just doing this right now. So that's the start of it. And then there's 4 other silos that are going to be involved with it.
Nice. So I won't ask you about that, but it sounds very cool. So it's exciting, kind of motivational just to see you kind of keep on, you know, I don't know how many years it's been, but you know, keep having that energy for the hustle and the drive and you know, creating something new.
Yeah, it's to the point where I've been in this now. I hide my own Easter eggs. So yeah, I've been in it a long time.
I mean, this is the thing, it's like so inspiring because, you know, when you think about how many reiterations of yourself you've had and how many different startups and areas, you just, I think it's really nice sometimes, especially as an entrepreneur, to be reminded that people have time, you have time, and like, you know, what you're doing right now, I'm just talking about myself right now, what you're doing right now might not be the like final stop. It's like just a sort of a stop on the journey. So it's really, really cool. I had a little rant for myself. Anyway, Norm, I actually am really curious. You obviously have had like a career spanning through so many different areas of, I guess, the e-commerce journey, from sourcing to like branding and obviously everything around. What do you think is really important for e-commerce sellers to know in 2024 when they decide to start a new business?
Branding, especially in Amazon, back in 2013, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, you didn't have to worry about a brand. Nike left because Amazon wasn't taking their brand seriously. They couldn't build a brand community. That's just my opinion. But they left, and now I think they've come back, you know, because you can do that. But building a brand is important, and you've got to know with your brand, you've got to live your brand. And that's got to be reflected in Amazon. It's got to be reflected in social media and in your website and whatever you write. You've got to have that tone, that personality for your brand. So when people look, like all of us are selling micro brands. None of us have a brand. None of us have a household name. And, 99.9% of us. And we forget that people are going to go to Amazon, they're going to go and check, and then they're going to, when you give them the opportunity, that one red flag that comes up, then they're going to go and they'll compare you with another company or, 2 or 3 companies. If you don't give them the opportunity, if everything's there, if everything checks the box, then you're good. And that's including when they search Google. So you've got to make sure that whatever you're doing, even the influencers that you're hiring, have that personality. So knowing the audience, who is your proper avatar, and we talk about this quite a bit. You don't have to have a huge audience. You don't have to have a huge audience to be very successful in the business. We were just at a podcast movement, it was called. And one of the successful people that were talking only had 1,800 people. And she was making $18,000 a month on memberships and sponsorship because it was a niche audience. And so you could do that. And you can, instead of, competing with 100,000 people, find something where there's no competition. And that's what I like. Like, I've sold chair glides, all right, come and compete. But all sorts of different brown bag products. I like just finding a niche that other people, I don't have to worry about. And that's probably one of the big things right now. There's lots of competition. Find that sub niche.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think that's quite a nice kind of circular way to end it, talking about knowing your audience, because if we bring it back to the AI questions we had at the beginning, like, I know your takeaway, which is very smart, which is who knows, right? But probably voice, which I agree with. I think the other one is these systems are going to get so intelligent that knowing who you're selling to, there's going to be no hacking it anymore. There's going to be no keyword stuffing. There's going to be no tricks or anything like that. Eventually, you're just going to have a great product and know that audience. And if you're meeting their needs, and you're going to be successful. And if you're not, there's not going to be any tricks in the world that can help you. But Norm, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the podcast. And yeah, like where if people want to reach out, what should they be reaching out for, and how can they find you?
Well, they can either watch Lunch with Norm Wednesdays at noon. Marketing Misfits, they come out, they're pre-recorded, they come out Tuesdays. And if they just want to reach out, they can check me out on social media, or Norm at AMZ, like Amazon, AMZ.club.com.
Well, we'll link all of those so people will be able to see it. But yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on and put you in the hot seat rather than normally having you interview with people.
Well, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks so much, Norm.